Welcome to the Tool Review channel. Today we're taking a look at the Channellock number 369 Linemen's Pliers. Now these are a 9.5 inch long Linemen's Pliers, and obviously Channellock, their tools are made in the USA. As you know, I talk heavily about I like tools that are made in the USA. I always think the quality of them is good, and it's just, you know, a far better product than some of the stuff made overseas. And figured if I'm going to talk about and say how much I like tools made in the USA, might as well pick up Channellock because, you know, they're a USA made brand and they've been around for quite some time, and thought I would take a look at them. So starting off with the review, you can see you have Channellock, your model number right there, made in the USA, etched onto the tool right there. And that's about it for the detail on the tool. There's no, you know, safety warnings or anything laser etched onto there. It's just plain and simple. And as you can see your rivet right there. So this is a high lever design with that rivet being close to the cutting edge. And with that, it's going to help you cut through wires a lot easier. You're not going to have to use as much force in like a pair of pliers if the rivet was moved back a little bit farther. And then coming to the back of the pliers, you can see you have a gripping surface right there. I've heard some people use them for pulling out screws and staples, or not screws, nails and staples, or you can pull some wire with that if you have like a fish tape and you need to pull it through something. You could grip onto it right there and pull it. And then coming up to here, you have your cutting edge right there, which is nice. And then you have your pliers, and you have this cross hatching on the front of the pliers right there, or on the nose of the pliers. And then I do believe the outside edges of these are filed down, so when you have a piece of conduit that you just cut and you want to use them to ream it out, you can use it because the edges are a little bit sharp. Obviously, they're not going to cut you, but they do have a little, you can definitely feel a slight little edge on there. So that if you do have some conduit you need to cut, you could probably ream it out with these, no problem. And then coming to the back, as you can see, you have a little square cut out right there. And as you can see, the cross hatching on the nose of the pliers is fairly decent on both ends, which is nice. And then you have your traditional Channellock blue dipped handles. As you can see, it's a nice thin dip, which is nice. They're definitely not too bulky. So we'll zoom out here and we'll get to some of the functionality of the tool. So obviously, as you can see, these pliers are still a little bit stiff. I did oil them up a little bit, but they're definitely going to require a little bit more breaking in. But as you can see, it is quite a smooth motion. And as you can see, these pliers do open up fairly wide, which is nice. So we're going to bring in some wire now, and we're going to start seeing what this can and can't cut through. Hopefully it can cut through everything we have here. So we're first going to start off with some 14 gauge stranded wire. And as you can see right there, cuts through that stranded wire, no problem, right there, which is nice. So we'll get that out of the picture, and we'll bring in some 12 gauge stranded wire and see how well these can cut through them. And as you can see, cuts through the 12 gauge stranded wire, no problem, which is nice. So we'll get that out of the picture, and we'll bring in some 10 gauge stranded wire as well. And as you can see, it has no problem whatsoever cutting through the 10 gauge stranded wire. So we'll put that off to the side. And now we'll bring in some 14 gauge solid wire. And as you can see, cuts through that no problem whatsoever. It has no problem cutting through the 14 gauge solid wire. Now we bring in some 12 gauge solid wire and see how well we can cut through that. And as you can see, it has no problem whatsoever cutting through the 12 gauge solid wire. Now we're going to bring in some 18.5 wires, thermostat wire, and we're going to see how well we can cut through that. And as you can see, it has no problem whatsoever cutting through this thermostat wire. And it even cuts off, there's a little piece of like insulation on there. It has no problem cutting through that as well, so we'll get that out of the picture. We're going to step it up a little bit, and we're going to bring in some 12-2 with ground Romex wire and see how well we can cut through this. I don't believe we're going to have a problem. And as you can see right there, we definitely don't have a problem. It cuts through it very smoothly, which is nice. You barely have to use any effort to get through this 14-2 Romex wire, so that is nice. Now we're going to bring in some 12-2 with ground Romex wire and see how well we can cut through that. And you definitely have to use a little bit more force than what you have to use with the 14-2, but you are able to cut through this 12-2 with ground, no problem. So as you can see, it cuts through the wire, no problem whatsoever. We're going to bring back in our 10 gauge stranded wire, and we're going to see if we can use the knives on this tool to strip the wire. So we'll just go ahead and put it in there, spin it around a couple times, and see if we can pull off the insulation. I don't think I cut it enough right there, or put enough pressure on there, but we should be able to cut that insulation off. And as you can see, you are able to strip some wire with this tool. We'll go ahead and try that one more time. Maybe we'll be able to do it with not struggle as much this time. So you just go like that, run the wire around a few times, and you should be able to pull off the insulation. No problem. I'm trying not to shake the camera. That's kind of why I have it out of the picture. But as you can see, you are able to strip wire with these, no problem. So overall, these are definitely a nice pair of Linemen's pliers that Channellock has to offer. Now, I know a lot of people swear by Channellock and they just absolutely love to use Channellock. And I do have to say this is a great product. I really don't have any complaints other than it's a little bit long for a pair of Linemen's pliers, I would say. I would say this is kind of like the, I believe it's the Weehaw ones I have. About size comparison, about 9.5. So these are definitely one of the larger pairs of Linemen's pliers I have, but it also offers a great amount of leverage, especially when you're having to cut through larger wires. Now, I don't really work with larger wires, so I don't have them to test. But as you can see, all the wires and, multiple wires that I have, they are able to cut through that no problem. And it is nice to see that the knives are sharp enough to cut that insulation off a wire. So if you were working on a project and you needed to strip a wire quickly and you didn't want to grab a pair of wire strippers, you could use the knives on these pair of Linemen's pliers to go ahead and strip that wire off, or strip the insulation off the wire, and the cross hatching on the nose of the plier grips onto that insulation and pulls it right off. Now, it did look like I was struggling a little bit in the video, and that's just, I didn't want to shake the camera around for you guys. But it does do a decent job stripping wire if that's what you need to use it for. So overall, these are definitely a nice pair of Linemen's pliers from Channellock. Some people prefer to use them over any other brands because the price has relatively stayed the same and the quality is just as good, if not better, as some of the other options out there. So these are definitely, like I said, definitely a nice pair of Linemen's pliers. And if you're looking for a set to add to your collection, or if you're someone just starting out in the trades and you need a pair of Linemen's pliers, definitely recommend picking these up. But that's all I have for this review. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. You should be able to pick these up at your local Home Depot in the tool aisle. And if you have a Menards by you, you should also be able to pick these up in the tool aisle as well. If you want links to those, I'll have a couple links in the description. That should take you over to Home Depot and Menards. I'm going to see if I can try and find a link for Channellock, their website, that I'll be able to give you a little bit more information on the tool. Or if you want to look up more information about the company, I'm going to see what I can do about finding a Channellock link. This was my first Channellock purchase. That was my own. I know that my father has a few Channellock tools, and they're still working to this day. But this was my first purchase myself, and I do have to say I am very impressed. And with that being said, hopefully we can do some more Channellock reviews in the future. But that's all I have for this review, so thank you for watching. And as always, stay tuned for the next video to be uploaded.